Alright, this is John Kola with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you coming at you from my beautiful backyard garden where I have all my delicious leafy green vegetables growing this time of year. We got a whole brassica bed with bolting Apollo Napa cabbage. We got this nice blue kale, cauliflower, it's starting to bolt, broccoli, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. On this side we got the nice delicious heirloom lettuces that I'll be eating, especially lots of red pigmented ones. And in this episode, what I'll be doing for you guys is actually answering your guys' questions. I don't do Q&As on this channel a lot. I do them a lot on my gardening channel, but I'll try to start doing more of them because they are pretty easy for me. And I do want to help you guys however I can. You know, on this channel I have over 100,000 subscribers or followers, so I apologize I can't answer every comment that comes in or every Facebook message I get. And I have a policy where actually I don't answer any kind of messages when people ask me questions, because otherwise I'm going to get wrapped up in that. I'm just going to sit behind my computer all day, which is definitely not healthy. I'd rather be out in my garden and gardening, or at least answering questions on a video for you guys, and then know that I'm going to be gardening right after this, all right? And so if you do need to get your questions answered, I do have a way. You could talk to me for 10 minutes. For just $5, I'll do actually a garden coaching session with you, but I will honestly answer any questions that you may have to the best of my ability. Although I do need to say that I'm not a doctor, and for medical advice, please consult your doctor or physician. So I'll post a link down below if you guys want to do that. And of the $5, which costs you $5, I get $4, and of that I keep $0 because that money goes to get my videos transcribed so people that are hearing impaired or in foreign countries can have access to my videos. So I guess, oh, and if you want to submit a question for this Q&A style format for the next one, be sure to check my YouTube channel page, which is youtube.com/OKRaw, and click on the community tab. Once you click there, there'll be a section that says post your questions here. All right, so first question is from Red Yumi. Hey John, what kind of toothpaste do you use? Can you do a video on household products you use? I want to go green everywhere. Also, do you think it's safe for babies to be in a raw diet? All right, so let's see what kind of toothpaste I use. So I use this one called Theodent. You know, that's one of the primary ones I use. I've covered it before in my Expo West episodes, I think from 2017, 2016, I think I covered them in there. That's one of my favorites. Maybe available at many Whole Foods near you. It actually is powered by the cacao and has some extracts from cacao that can help remineralize your teeth. The other one I use is called Premio, and it's actually from Japan, and that's also another remineralization toothpaste. That's the other one I use predominantly, although I have like a few other ones that I use. And if you guys want me to do, I'm gonna do a video on the teeth and taking care of your teeth, the toothpaste, the toothbrushes, and all the things I do for my teeth. If you guys want that, post in the comments below. Make sure you thumbs up this video. If I get a lot of thumbs ups, I'll do that sooner rather than later. I just haven't been able to get that going, because I have a whole routine I do for my teeth, which are very important, and it saved me, in my opinion. On household cleaning products, yes, I can make a video on that, but real quick, I just try to keep it super simple. You know, I found this new stuff called counterculture in my last 2018 Natural Products Expo West video that I use for cleaning products. I mean, basically, I just like soap and water is probably one of the best things. You could do some lemon juice and vinegar. You know, it's cleaning products, citrus. Actually, I use this stuff called it's D-limonene. And it's called orange TKO. It's called TKO, and I just mix that with some essential oils that I drop in, and mix that up with water, and then I just use that, and that thing lasts forever. And then other than that, if I'm like paranoid about germs or bacteria, I might get like 7th generation stuff. The cheapest place is like Target. It's like $2.99, I think, and it kills 99% of whatever bacteria in my bathroom, supposedly. And it's usually sold next to like the Lysol and all that crap, which is actually really bad. Oh, and then other household products, you know, I use brown paper towels or reusable towels depending on the situation. So I have cloth ones, microfiber ones that I could actually wash and reuse to clean up messes. I have brown ones that are unbleached that then usually get either composted many times into my garden. I also use like bamboo non-bleached toilet paper. It's from bamboo and sugarcane bagasse with, trees also with some smaller percentage, because you don't want to wipe your butt with dioxins. That's in standard brand Charmin and most other brand common toilet papers. And then actually even recycled paper could also be a challenge, because that could have a BPA content. So I don't like to use actually recycled toilet paper, unbleached, although that's what many people into health foods use. If you want that, post the link down below. I'll make a video more on toilet paper. I remember when I first met my last girlfriend, and I was talking to her about toilet paper, and I was like giving her, telling her for about half hour, like all my research I did on toilet paper. She was like really bored and was probably gonna break up with me at that point. So, all right. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and then is it safe for babies to be in a raw food diet? So that's a big question. I've seen a lot of babies where CPS comes in and takes their babies because the people are on a raw food diet. But my opinion is a very restrictive raw food diet. For me, I think babies, the best diet for them is human breast milk. That is raw. And let them wean when they're going to wean. I can't tell you that if done appropriately, I think it can work, but I think it could also be done very inappropriately, and it can be very dangerous and put your child at risk and not be good. So, one of these days when I have kids, hopefully, or my girlfriend has kids, or whoever I end up marrying has kids, I would like to marry. I like to raise my kids, plant-based and as raw as possible. Although it depends on her and her feelings about this, and I'd be as smart as possible. So breastfeeding as long as possible, and then feeding also nutrient-dense foods. And I was just thinking about this today, is getting your kid not to be addicted to sweets, right? So feed them blueberries instead of feeding them mango, because blueberries are high antioxidant, and get them to like the blueberries. Feed them hawthorn berries and other berries, acai berries that are like not so sweet. So that's what they get used to when they're young, so that they hopefully won't want it when they're older. And also those have the phytonutrients that are anti-aging and to keep them healthier longer. And of course, the other thing I do, especially for babies, is I would supplement with DHA. That's one of the most important things a person could do. And I'd also want them to get also some K2 that can be deficient in a vegan diet. And there's a lot of other things, vitamin B12, vitamin D. Hopefully they're going to all get that from their breast milk. But that's just from what I believe and some of the research and friends and things that I've met over the years. Let's see. Next question is from Lonnie Boyd. What's the best purifier for drinking water from tap water? All right, Lonnie. So in my opinion right now, the best two are like distillation and reverse osmosis. And each one have their pros and cons. I use reverse osmosis in my home if you want a good system. Personally, I just go to the one, get the one at Costco. That's a good affordable setup that has a Costco forever warranty, and it's pretty reliable. That's the one actually I use. That being said, I don't drink a lot of tap water. If I soak in my seaweed, like last night I soaked seaweed for a meal, I use that water there. If I'm sprouting some seeds, I'll use that water. If I'm making some sauerkraut, need to have like a brine mixture, I'll use that water. But generally I don't drink even the filtered tap water in my house. I prefer to drink coconut water or water from plants. I'll juice some vegetables and drink the vegetable juices. Optimally, in my opinion, we should be getting all the water we need from our foods, and this is especially true if you're not eating foods that are dehydrated or cooked, that has the water cooked out of them. All right? Next question is from Alejandro T. John, what is the best food you have eaten, your favorite meal, and where was it enjoyed at? My favorite food I've ever eaten, that's a good question. I'm going to have to say, like, some of the things out of my garden have just blown me away and tasted super incredible and are very, very rarely found anywhere else. So I have these things called the ugniberry ones. I don't know if you guys saw the episode on my gardening channel, but the ugniberries, that blew me away when I ate it. Oh, the other thing that I liked is the Captain Crunch Berry. I forget what that's called, but that was an episode I did in Hawaii. That's what they call it, but that's not the name. It's called... I forget the name, but it's a really cool berry from, like, I think South America, off a tree. That was like an amazing, you don't expect this little berry to have such an amazing flavor, right? And then my favorite meal generally is out of my garden and enjoyed at home. Like when I started making my pepper-based soups, like, oh my God, it was so good, though, just spices and everything. And every time I make something, I never write down the recipe generally, and I just make it always a little bit different. I throw in a dash of this, a dash of that, and I have no, like, you got to put in a quarter cup of this and this. I just start throwing stuff in there. And most of the time it comes out pretty good. But yeah, I just like the food out of my garden that I grew, right? It tastes a lot better, it's a lot fresher, and also I know it's a lot healthier for me. And more importantly, the next day when I wake up feeling great and not like I got hit by a truck because it's like high fat or high sugar or high salt and all this kind of stuff. All right, next question is from Wanik4. John, as someone new to juicing, how would you recommend going about deciding how much to juice and consume at a time? I see you drink epic amounts in one sitting, but I want to make sure I'm not overdoing it. First juice was 1 pound of carrots, 1 pound of celery, 3 Granny Smith apples, and 1 bunch of Latticino kale. Love it, loving it, and looking forward to your insight. Green Love from Chicago. All right, so here's the thing. Like, I don't give any medical advice, but if I was new into juicing, this is what I would do, and actually this is what I did do, is basically I would juice like as much juice for a meal replacement. So like what I recommend for people is instead of eating breakfast, drink as much fresh juice as you'd like, right? And that could vary for the person, you know. To feel full, for some people they might need 50 ounces, for some people they might need 16, but basically whatever it takes so that you don't eat whatever else you would have normally ate for breakfast. Normally what people eat for breakfast, in my opinion, are atrocious. Ham and eggs, bacon, hash browns that are fried up. These promote inflammation and premature aging, whereas the juices, juicing fresh vegetables and, you know, fruits to a lesser extent, you know, are some of the best things you could be drinking, in my opinion. And so every person's a little bit different. You know, today for breakfast I had about 50 ounces of a juice. It was like carrots, orange carrots, orange and red beets, some pineapple, tree collards, like 10 leaves out of my garden. Also has some zucchini because it's going bad. So I threw that in there. 3 hearts of romaine in there also. Some ginger. I think that's pretty much it. And that's what I had, you know, 50 ounces of that. And then I'll have, you know, that again tomorrow because I made a double batch, so I don't have to do it tomorrow. And it's vacuum saved in my fridge. Check below if I remember. I'll put a link down below to how to vacuum save your juices so they could store up to a week. Not that I recommend that, but I know some of you guys get busy, and I'd rather you guys have second-day-old juice that's vacuum stored instead of like, oh, I don't have time to make a juice. I'm just going to grab a Sobe soda or a natural soda or a coffee or even some kind of worse beverage, right? And so, you know, in my opinion, juice is probably one of the healthiest things you guys could eat. And it's probably better to overdo juice, in my opinion, than it is to overdo bacon and eggs. But yeah, I mean, if you feel fine, you're not too super full, you're not getting bloated by that volume of juice you're juicing, great, keep it up. If you still feel like you want more after that, make more. If you drink about half the juice, whatever you made, and you're like, wow, I'm feeling full, I feel like I had enough, listen to your body, right? That's the most important thing we need to do. We're taught to like, what does John say? I'll drink how much John said. No, don't drink what I said. I drink according to what I feel, right? When I'm full, I stop drinking juice. That's about 50 ounces. Sometimes that's 32 ounces, depends on the day, right? But listen to your bodies, right? Learn to tune in. Very important. All right, next question is from Bob Schmob. Is that for real? All right. Hey, John. Thanks so much for what you do. I'm curious to know what brand of spirulina you use and recommend. Oops, you grow your own, right? Is there one you recommend or what to look for? Also, any info or insight you found regarding spirulina and B12 analogues and also BMMA. Thanks. All right, Bob. So let's see here. So I was growing spirulina at one point, and I think it's definitely best to grow your own if you guys can. I'll put a link down below to a video. It's not that hard. It just does take some attention and time. So it'd be good if you don't travel a lot, because when I travel, that's when my system went wonky. But if you're home all the time and can pay attention to your spirulina, because it does take some constant monitoring, that's absolutely the best way to do it, because you'll have it fresh and uncontaminated source. That being said, there's so many different spirulina brands on the market at this time. They're, you know, grown in California, from Taiwan, and all over the world, China, India. Like, which one is good, which one is bad? Like, I don't want to sort through and figure out all this kind of stuff, so I trust a brand to do that for me. And the brand I trust is actually Health Force Nutritionals. I did visit their facility in Phoenix, Arizona. I hope to have a video up on that soon. But they basically do multiple testings and make sure that there's no bad contamination or heavy minerals, heavy metals in there. And so I trust that brand for my spirulina if I'm not growing it myself. Oh, that being said, you know, I do prefer to get fresh spirulina. So if you're in the Bay Area, there's a guy in the Bay Area that sells it at certain farmers markets, so I get it when I'm there. And there's also a company in Florida that I forget the name of. I think it's rawlivingspirulina.com. I'll put a link down below, but I just got a shipment of that stuff. I was super impressed with the packaging, because it's like all eco-friendly packaging that's compostable, which, especially when you're shipping a refrigerated product, is amazing. Plus, it got to me actually cold, unlike other refrigerated products that I have ordered in the past. And so I definitely would recommend that stuff. And if you get fresh spirulina, you want it, you know, not let it sit around in your fridge too long. You want to use it, because that stuff can go bad. And that's the insight regarding spirulina and B12 analogues. So based on what I know and friends' testings and whatnot, spirulina does have B12 analogues, in my opinion, and based on testing I've seen, it doesn't really raise your B12. So don't take your spirulina thinking that I'm going to eat spirulina so I'll get my B12 so I don't have to take a B12 supplement. You know, I personally take a B12 supplement. That being said, I have heard that potentially the Vitamin Mineral Green, which is also a Health Force product, you know, in some people that have taken that, gotten tested before and after taking it, it did raise their B12 levels, so that may work. It's probably not the spirulina, but it might be the chlorella in there. So chlorella may be a viable method to raise B12. That being said, although I take spirulina and chlorella, I don't take them to raise my B12. I take them just because they are a whole food, high protein, rich in, you know, phytonutrients and phytocyanins and all these different things that are good for me, and I still take a B12 supplement. So that's my opinions on that. Next question is from Bobby Buns Parker. I know how you eat, John, but how do you poop? Do you sit normal on the bowl? Do you use a stool? Is there a raw food that backs you up? And do you poop every time you eat? All right, so raw food is have no shame. They'll talk about poop. So I'll put a link down below to a video I did on how I poop. I don't show anything, and my mom was appalled, and she believed I should take it down, which I feel strongly I need to leave it up. But I squat on the toilet. I do not sit normally on the toilet. It's really bad for your bowels, and ever since I learned how to squat from Jasmine Clower, rest in peace, Jasmine, I've been doing it, and it's never been better, and I will not poop any other way. Don't use a stool, because that's an extra waste of money and an extra garbage thing in my bathroom. You don't need it. I just squat on the toilet. That being said, if you're older, you don't have good balance, it may be good to invest in one of those squatty potties or just some, you know, phone books on the ground to basically raise your feet up so you're kind of more in a squatting position. Actually, I like that I actually balance on the toilet every time I go to the bathroom. It keeps me in balance, also strengthens my leg muscles. It's because I'm doing like a squat, literally, like several times a day. And let's see. Is there a raw food that backs you up? So generally, if I eat too many nuts or seeds or go out to a raw food restaurant, I'll get backed up. If I'm eating at home, eating lots of fruits and vegetables and high fiber content foods, including drinking juices, I don't get backed up, all right? And then, do you poop every time you eat? Yes, and then some. Actually, a matter of fact, today I only had one meal. It's kind of like the afternoon, but I only had my breakfast because I don't generally eat till around noon or so, or maybe even 1. And already I went like 3 times to the bathroom. One of which was actually after I drank the juice, but the others are actually right when I woke up, and even maybe a little bit after I woke up. I went a couple more times, and you think, man, that's inconvenient, John. Well, so here's the thing, like normal people when they go to the bathroom, they go and sit on the can, they're sitting there for like a half hour, or maybe 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. I don't really know how long people, all I know is that when I go into the bathroom, when I'm traveling at the airport, I go in, do my business, and I come out, and the guy next to me is basically just still sitting there, and you see his, you know, his pants at his knees, still sitting there. I'm like, man, what the frick is the problem? Make room for somebody else. So like, I mean, this morning I didn't time it or anything like that, but generally I'm in and out of the bathroom under a minute or 2 minutes, like for sure, because I got the urge to go. I go to the bathroom, it comes out, I clean up, and I'm done. And that's just what it is, and that's how it should be, right? You shouldn't have to be sitting there struggling and going poop. That's not natural. So I poop multiple times a day. Hope that's not too much information. But generally, 1 meal in, 1 meal out is a good rule of thumb, but I generally do maybe up to twice as many times as my meals. Okay, so next question is from Bubble. What is your favorite type of edible weed? I'm growing purslane and dandelion, just wondering what else to include in my diet. So actually my favorite edible weed, Bubble, is actually stinging nettles. I love that thing. Like, it just, actually I found some coming up next to my tea plants over in the garden, and it comes up, I cut it back every year, so I cut it down to the roots, and the roots come alive every year, and they just come back. And it's usually grown with like some leafy greens or some peppers, depending on the time of year. And so I like that. I love the flavor, although it stings. It's also a very healing and medicinal, healthy green to eat, and it's actually really, really, really low maintenance. It'll actually just take over your yard probably if you're not careful. So one of the things I do is I let it grow up to the baby stage. I harvest it all. And once it starts to go to flower, that's usually when I cut it back, leave the roots in the ground alive, and then let the roots come back so that it never sets too many seeds, so it doesn't ever get out of control here. But of course, if you had like 10 acres, yeah, on 10 acres, take an acre and just let all the stinging nettles grow and actually water it a little bit, take a little bit of care of it, put good soil down so you could have some of the highest quality stinging nettles. Kodiak, far as skin care is concerned, what kind of soap do you like? So Kodiak, so generally I get natural organic soaps, and I go to the Natural Products Expo West and get soap samples generally if I'm traveling, but actually I only use those if I'm out of my preferred soap, and my preferred soap is actually Dr. Ohiro's probiotic soap, and that's actually like a beauty bar, so it's made for women in Japan, and they're nice, soft, supple skin on their face probably, and it actually has probiotics. That being said, if it's good for your face, it's good for the rest of your body, so I just use it everywhere, and probably the biggest challenge with that is that the bars are quite expensive, but you know what? It's the best. I've been using that for many years now, and that's the only thing I like to use. It gets my hands clean. It has the probiotics, and now I have probiotics on my hands that make my skin more resistant to infections and whatnot, and I feel good about it, and keeps my skin pretty nice too. And I think it does an alright job cleaning also. Let's see here. Next question is from a dark butterfly. What's the biggest struggle you've had with your healthy lifestyle, and how have you been able to overcome it? So honestly, I mean, the biggest struggle I've had probably is the social situations. You know, like eating a plant-based raw diet does not go along with most social situations. I mean, people might think, oh man, it's really hard to get food. Well, getting food is really not that hard. Every grocery store in America has some kind of produce section. Even though some of them might suck pretty bad, you could always get the food. I mean, when I'm traveling, that's not really even a problem. I just go to grocery stores instead of fast food restaurants or even raw food restaurants to find my food, or even preferably, you know, health food stores and farmers markets, right? They're popping up all over the place. I never have a problem getting food. I always know what to eat, fruits and vegetables, fresh picked. I like to visit farms and gardens and things when I'm traveling and get their fresh food from them. So that's not really a problem, but the biggest challenge I think is the social situations. Luckily, I mean, you would never know this, but generally I'm an introverted person and I'm not too extroverted, so I don't really, you know, have a lot of friends or like to talk to a lot of people. Although I meet people all the time, talk to them because of my videos, and that's great. But in general, I'm a reserved person. I don't tend to talk a lot. And so that's how I've dealt with it. It's kind of like my diet is kind of like more hermity. So I'm kind of more hermity in some ways. And aside from coming out and making videos and meeting people when I'm out in the public, you know, actually I don't have a lot of friends, which is something I need to definitely fix. I'd like to have more friends that are into this stuff. And that's probably the social situation. And the other thing is dating. So dating, if you're into this lifestyle, is probably the biggest challenge because it's like I want to really go out with somebody that eats a plant-based, fruit and vegetable dominated raw diet, and you know they're far and few in between, and so that's definitely presents a big challenge. And I mean, you just got to meet somebody that's doing the same thing, and just to get out there to different events that these people might show up at and talk to people. So that's probably the biggest challenge. How did I overcome it? Well, I'm probably still working on that. I mean, still don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of close friends, but not like I don't know like tons of people. But honestly, I mean, that kind of works for me because I don't have a lot of time to be like, I can't just go to some dude's house and like waste a day hanging out, right? I mean, I got gardens to tend to, I got food to prepare, I got videos to make. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's probably the thing that I'd say is the social situations, and I guess it depends on how important your social life is to you. So, you know, and you need to make some sacrifices if you're out in social situations. If you're all raw, then maybe that's when you eat some whole food, plant-based vegan stuff so that at least you could fit in and not seem too strange because you're always eating salads or fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. But of course, for me, I'd always bring my stuff, and if people want to think I'm different or weird or strange, I don't really care because I'm doing this for me, and I could care less what other people think for the most part. And I would encourage you guys also to have that, you know, aspect, because I think people in this day and age far worry about what other people think of them, and that causes them to influence and do things differently in their life, which you should try to be more about you and take care of yourself as first priority and not be concerned about what other people think about you in some cases. All right, next question is from Brittany Gomez. Hi John, I've been raw for 3 years and I'm still having a hard time digesting greens. I pulse them in the blender before I eat them, but digestion is still not ideal. Any suggestions? I eat about 3 bunches of different greens a day and absolutely love and crave them, so I don't really want to eat less. I've tried juicing them, but that is not nearly as satisfying, and I can't do it for every meal. Thank you. All right, Brittany, so yeah, digesting greens, that could be a big issue, especially if you're not coming from a place where you ever ate a lot of greens in your diet before, and especially if you throw them into your body really fast and if you generally just blend them up instead of chew them. So, you know, there could be a lot of situations going on what I'm going to recommend is what I would do if I was in your situation and I didn't digest greens. Like I had a blended salad yesterday for lunch, and when it came out probably this morning, like I didn't see any particular or no plant matter. I juiced greens for breakfast the other day, and I think I digest things all pretty well, personally. I have seen other people, their stools after they have eaten a big salad, there'll be pieces of lettuce and things that aren't getting digested, so this is not good. So what's the problem? Basically, the problem is your intestines are not digesting it, and there could be many reasons for this, and if it was me, this is what I would do. Number one, even if you blend stuff up or juice it, you want to chew your food. Super critical, super important. If you just make this green smoothie, it's the healthiest thing in the world, you just glug it down, right? You're bypassing your body's digestive system, which starts in the mouth. Even better yet, man, start to chew your greens up, right? When you chew the greens, there's actions and saliva in your mouth, your jaw starts moving, and then you swallow it, and then that's basically the full digestive system. So start chewing greens in your mouth instead of always blending them, and get used to doing that, right? And this will give your body small amounts of greens to not overload it in any one small, like big smoothie with all these greens in it, right? That you're not chewing. So start chewing your greens, and if you do choose to blend your greens up, hey, that's great. It allows you to get more greens in, that's definitely better than anything else you could be eating. But when you drink your smoothie, the smoothie should take you as long to drink as long as it would take you to eat that amount of greens, right? So put it in your mouth, swish it around, make the chewing movements like you're chewing it, even if you don't have to because it's already blended up, and then swallow it a little bit at a time. Don't swallow it in big gulps. Don't just try to get it in, right? You need to slow down when you're eating. Focus and, have a quiet eating time. Don't be distracted when you're eating. Distraction during eating means you're not going to get as good a digestion. Every evening meal, and generally when I'm eating, I like to stop and take a break from gardening or whatever I'm doing to focus on actually eating. It's called conscious eating. So that's a few things. Second thing is getting your microbiome or your gut system healthy and happy. So there could be a few things going on. If you haven't eaten a lot of greens in your life, maybe your body's not making enough hydrochloric acid to digest the greens properly, right? So it might be helpful to take some HCl capsules. That might help. That's something that I would try. Be worth a try to see. But my goal would not be to eat greens and take these capsules the rest of my life. My goal would be to get it so that my body starts to increase the amount of hydrochloric acid it starts creating. And, by doing good practices and by slowing down and be filtering off some of the greens, you might be able to raise that. So, one of the ways I would do it is by drinking green juices that kind of take some of the fiber out so it's less for your body to digest and, not overload your body, and just start slowly, back off all the greens so your body's like, okay, I'm having a breather now, it's cool. And then I would probably slowly juice a little bit of greens at a time. So for the first week or two, I might juice, half a bunch of greens, keep that up, just drink that juice, and then slowly your body notices hey, they're drinking this many greens, I can handle that, I can make enough HCl to digest those greens. And then slowly you add a little bit more, and you do this slowly over time. So as you drink more, your body's like, oh, I could do that much, right? He's only having a few more greens. I can make a little bit more HCl, hydrochloric acid, in my intestines. And then slowly but surely, you're going to get to the point where you could handle large volumes. A lot of people go cold turkey and all this kind of stuff. And in my opinion, that's probably one of the worst ways to convert into eating fruits and vegetables, because our bodies need to get used to this. So that hydrochloric acid, chewing things properly, consciously eating, slowing down. But the other thing that's super important is the microbiome. You may not have the beneficial bacteria in your gut that helps you digest your greens, and especially the fiber in the greens, we don't digest that. The beneficial microbes in our gut do, and that's why I've been super huge on the probiotics, right? I take the Dr. Heroes Probiotic 10. If you want to get some kind of capsule, that capsule is actually a live food. It's not really, made in a lab like this white powder stuff. Eat more fermented foods, many different kinds. I'm actually probably hopefully going to make it later today. Going to make some kimchi out of my Napa cabbage here. This will hopefully implant some of the good bacteria in your gut, and hopefully they're going to colonize, stay around because you're feeding them, and they will also help you digest the greens. So that'd be my three-prong approach to help to be able to better digest greens. Hopefully one of those, I think would work for me if I did that, and maybe they'll work for you too. All right. Let's see. Next question is from I love Davy Grolton. All right. Tips for people who can't digest raw food. I'd love to know your skincare routine. All right, so tips for people who can't digest raw food. I mean, the biggest problem with digesting raw food in many, in my opinion, is especially in the greens and the vegetables, are the fiber. People can't digest the fiber, so the easiest thing to get rid of the fiber, or some of the fiber, is actually to juice it. So in my opinion, juicing is the best way to incorporate more fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet. It removes some of the fiber, it removes the insoluble fiber, it'll keep the soluble fiber that dissolves in the water. I mean, and then start off juicing slowly. Don't like just glug down 32 ounces of juice if you've never done it before. Start off with a smaller glass, let your body get used to that, do that for a good period of time, and then slowly ramp up and increase the volume that you're juicing until you've gotten to a good amount. And of course, eating other healthy plant foods at the same time are really important. Also, the tips that I gave just in the previous answer, also super important. I would do those as well. And then I'd love to know my skincare routine. I mean, I'm a guy. I don't really have a skincare routine, all this stuff. But what I will tell you is I have an overall dry skin type. And so if you have an oily skin type, don't do this routine. It's not for you. This is for people that have even a dry skin type or excessively dry skin type. And I live in the desert, which is not the best place for me to live. So what I do is I exfoliate often. I like to exfoliate every day. I make basically an oil sugar scrub using raw oil and raw sugar. I don't eat it, but I scrub it on my body to exfoliate. That works very well for me. You could do a salt oil scrub, similar thing. I like to use the sugar. Also, I have these like little pads that I use to exfoliate my skin on my face, since that's what mostly gets looked at on me. And then after that, I wash pretty good. And then I'll use basically jojoba oil on my skin, because my skin does not produce enough oil to like give my oil some of the oil that it should have. It also adds as some kind of small layer of sun protection. The jojoba oil is one of the best oils, in my opinion, that I've tried for my skin. I used to put coconut oil on, but it's kind of oily. It doesn't really absorb. The jojoba oil is closest to our natural skin sebum that our skin should be making. All right. So if you want a video on skincare, I've been thinking about doing that for a long time. Give a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Maybe I'll do my skincare routine here. All right, next question from Becky Rowan. Hi, would you mind to tell me what is the safest and best water source for drinking and even washing produce? The water company in my area has found that there is a known carcinogen in our soil that is leaching into the water, yet they do nothing about it. What do I do for water? What do you do for water? Also, are cooked legumes bad for you? Thanks so much for your help. All right, Becky, so let's see, the safest and best water drinking source, right? So I'd recommend a water that has the minerals removed at this point in my life. I used to think like spring water or distilled water or RO water. I didn't really know which one was best, but now I'm confident that we want to get the minerals removed. So like drinking water would be best like reverse osmosis or distiller. Between those, they each have their pros and cons. Both of them will remove, provided they're working properly. The minerals in the water, especially drinking, if you have hard water, that's, in my opinion, really bad to drink for longevity because it could have too high a calcium. It could cause calcification, which besides the calcium and the minerals being in the wrong form in the water, people aren't getting enough K2, so the calcium can't be driven into the bones. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, I would get that kind of water. But that being said, I don't even like to drink water. Coconut water is the best water for me that I prefer to drink, or water from plants. So I juice every day, different vegetables. One of my favorite water replacements is celery and cucumber juice. Just juiced up, and I'll drink that instead of water. I would prefer to drink actually just fresh coconuts, which are basically watered, filtered by plants, and that's the best water on the earth. Now, to wash your produce, you could use like an RO tap off your sink. If you have an RO system on your sink, distilled water is not as easy to do on a larger scale, but I do also encourage a whole house filtration system generally, but in not all instances, a carbon-based filtration system is the best. Generally, maybe one with carbon and KDF if you have chlorine in there, but not chloramine. I think Lowe's had a pretty good system that had mostly carbon in there. It was like around $400. That's a good one. Or I'd recommend like a Big Blue, like 3 20-inch Big Blue filters with different kinds of filter elements, maybe like a sediment filter, maybe like a KDF carbon, and then maybe like a solid carbon block, but depending on your water pressure, that may drop pressure in your house too much. So it just kind of depends on your situation. I can't really get into more of that, but hopefully that helps you out there. But and then you said, are cooked legumes bad for you? So, I mean, I don't like to think in terms of, is this good or bad? I like to think in terms of good, better, best. Cooked legumes are 100 times better, in my opinion, than any kind of animal products, right? Personally, I'd rather eat some raw kale and greens from my garden than cooked legumes, but I believe, depending on where you're at, cooked legumes can have a proper place. My personal opinion is that I don't like to eat cooked legumes. I like to actually eat cooked and then fermented legumes. So, like, I'll eat unpasteurized tempeh and natto, which is actually they cook the beans, but then they actually add a culture, and then they culture them with bacteria, so then that it makes additional nutrients and breaks down some of the potential toxins in the beans even further. You know, I know there's a guy saying lectins are bad and don't eat beans and all this kind of stuff, but, you know, I guess the question to ask is, what are you eating besides the cooked beans, right? I'd rather eat cooked beans than cooked rice or cooked white rice, right? But I don't eat either of those things because I'd rather juice some carrots, right? And so it all depends on where you're at, what you want to do, and by far, if you are cooking your beans and eating beans, eat the dark pigmented beans. So eat the black beans instead of the ones that are white. They're going to have a lot more anthocyanins in there to begin with. And of course, I would encourage you guys to also ferment your beans. Cook your beans, then ferment them, or even better, sprout your beans, then cook them, then ferment them. Or just sprout your beans and then cook them. You know, good, better, best. Do the best you can. Next question is from Shauna Jonathan. John, thank you for your hard work and being such a trusted, non-biased source of health information. If we don't have a natural spring near us, what type of water do you recommend? I know from watching your videos that you would rather drink fresh juice or coconut water. What about plain old water? Some, quote, experts say that the Berkey water filter removes important minerals. So does reverse osmosis. Are you aware of some good options? All right, Sean, so I did answer these in previous questions today, but basically, here's the thing. Like, I use my water that I get from the city water that I filter, and then I water my plants so you guys can see all around me, right? Now, the water coming in from the city has a certain kinds of minerals in it, which is, hey, that's great. We need minerals in our life. Absolutely. I will definitely agree with that. But the water that's coming in from the city is basically a way of the minerals are the minerals that we can't optimally digest. We may digest and absorb some of them in small percentages, but they're not chelated. They don't have the right charge on them so that we could really get them in any large way. So, for this reason, I believe that, and other reasons, I believe that we shouldn't be drinking the water from the tap, you know, because it has the minerals in a form that we don't need. They could also accumulate in our bodies, cause calcification, which can be a big problem, and reduce longevity. And also, the tap water can contain many contaminants, right? So the best filters, in my opinion, are not a Berkey filter, not a reverse osmosis, not even a distiller, but it's the plants, right? The plants are the best. I filter my water, feed it to my plants. My plants then basically take the minerals that are in the water with the bacteria and the microbes in the soil, with the other trace minerals I add in the soil, and they put them in the right charge, and they basically chelate them. So now that when I eat my broccoli, I get the minerals from the water that's coming to my house, from the minerals in the soil in the plant. So that's why I like to drink coconut water or eat vegetables from my water or juice them from my water the best. If you want to drink some water, hey, that's great. Reverse osmosis or distilled water, in my opinion, would probably be what I would drink. I use reverse osmosis in my kitchen for cooking needs, but not necessarily for drinking, because I like to get my water from my plants, and I tend to drink a lot of coconut water if I do need to drink any kind of water. The next treatment that you may want to do, people are into these alkalinizing waters. I'm not a big fan of alkaline waters. I think it's better to drink alkalized juices that are naturally from the vegetables, because aside from getting alkaline water with vegetable juices, you're getting a lot of the other phytonutrients, vitamins, and minerals in the juice itself. But I do think that there is a place, if you are drinking water, you should actually turn your water into hydrogen water. I'll have an upcoming episode on this. I had a video last year about it. But I think that is definitely, if you are drinking water, you should make sure it is a hydrogen water. That's definitely a step in a better direction, because hydrogen water is actually an antioxidant water, unlike other waters that are out there. So hope that answers your question on that. Let's see, next question is from Julie Branda Moen Crow. Thoughts on intermittent fasting? Do you or Lauren do it? If so, can she give a woman's perspectives on the pros and cons? So Lauren, to my opinion, does not intermittent fast. That being said, I do. So I like to basically, after eating dinner, I like to stop at my evening meal, and then basically I'll sleep all night, and in which time I'm not eating, and then I'll wake up the next morning. I might drink water, well, usually coconut water or water, as the first thing I drink, and then I'll be good for a couple hours until I eat my first meal. And I generally like to have at least 12 hours minimum elapse that I'm actually not eating. So I'm basically intermittent fasting all during that time. And I think this is just a good thing to do, whether you want to intermittent fast every day or whether you want to eat one day, take a days of break. I think people eat far too much. I probably even eat too much. I need to probably even eat a little bit less. But it's very important to get enough nutrients and enough calories for your body type, your lifestyle, and for what you do. And so that's my opinion on that. I think intermittent fasting is probably one of the best things you could do for your health. That's really simple. That doesn't even cost you anything. That it could actually even save you some money because you're going to have to stop eating a little bit earlier. All right. Last question today from Emily Jostling. Hi, John. What do you think about the mucusless diet? It says to exclude nuts, seeds, and coconut oil, etc. I see you recommend some things excluded from that diet. I'm transitioning from vegan to raw, and I want to know your take on it. P.S. You're a huge inspiration for me and my boyfriend. Thanks for your gardening videos. All right, Emily. So, I mean, there's so many people that have come up with different kind of strategies and diets and all these things, and you know, for a period of time, that may be what works for you, right? The Mucusless Diet Healing System by Arnold Ehret. I mean, I read the book many years ago when I first got into this, and like I was really inspired by the book. The writings are amazing in there, and there is some merit to it. I mean, I think for a cleansing diet, I think it's really good. But as for a long-term sustainable diet that's healthy, you know, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I don't necessarily recommend eating coconut oil. I don't like to have any extracted oils. I do eat young coconut. I'll make coconut milk out of the whole coconuts that I buy. I do eat a handful of nuts or seeds. I don't think it's personally healthy to exclude them. That being said, I have friends that you can get away with excluding nuts and seeds, but the caveat there, this big caveat, is you need to make sure you eat copious amounts of greens to make sure you get your essential fatty acids met. And also, if you're not eating nuts and seeds, you're not eating a lot of calories, and then your calories have to come from somewhere. And you know, if you're a fruitarian, then it's coming from fruit. And then, in my opinion, you could overdo the fruit. I'd rather overdo a little more nuts than overdo more fruit. You know, for me, in my situation at the present time, if you're younger, maybe you'd want to overdo more fruit than nuts. But I think the whole thing is we want to live in balance. I try to think that I take a balanced approach. I use, you know, components of fruitarianism. I use components of eating like Ann Wigmore green style diet. I take components of a nutritarian diet, and I combine it into my own thing that I found that works for me, and that's what I share and promote, right? I would encourage you guys, like the majority of my diet, like all I had today was fruits and vegetables, right? Greens from my garden, root vegetables, juice, pineapple. Later I'm probably gonna eat maybe some jackfruit, and then later for dinner I'm gonna have like salad of greens with a handful of nuts for a dressing, basically. So I mean, I eat really simple. It doesn't have to be that complicated, you know. I mean, some of the fats in nuts will help increase the absorption of some of the phytonutrients in some of the fruits and vegetables, so I think they are beneficial. But of course, if you're cleansing, you're just getting in and you've been eating a crappy vegan diet, it might be good to do a mucusless diet, you know, for some period of time as like a cleanse, and then kind of transition into like eating a little bit, you know, adding some amounts of nuts and seeds, but don't go overboard on them. I think a big problem with raw food is that they tend to eat way too many nuts and seeds, and that's not healthy either. And, you know, having a good balanced diet, I think, is the most important thing, and finding the balance that is right for you, your body type, your activity level, and all that stuff. So, yeah, I hope that helps you out a little bit. Glad I could be an inspiration for you and your boyfriend. I want to encourage all my viewers out there to start growing a garden, whether you could do it outdoors, which is great, or whether you got to grow sprouts and microgreens. Remember, I'll put a link down below to a video I did showing you guys how you guys could grow microgreens indoors and even make some money at the same time, depending on where you live. I think that's probably one of the best foods on the entire planet you guys should grow. And if you do, I'll be your best friend because I'll come over and I want to get your microgreens because I don't have the time because I'm traveling so much. But I have a huge outdoor garden. But I do need to eat more microgreens and sprouts. That's on my to-do list and my goal list. So if it's important to me, hopefully it'd be important for you guys as well. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this Q&A, want more Q&As, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Also leave your comments and things down below. I'll try to respond. I try to look at comments for the first few days of videos out, and then after that I don't have time and are unable to do that on every video because I've had over 2,300 videos online now. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming episodes. I've come out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 500 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to teach you guys all aspects on how you guys can incorporate more fruits and vegetables and fresh in your diet. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time. Until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.